I wanted to mention something which I had spoken about last week, but I did not include a certain concept, which was my intent then. I just want to mention it, which is very important. And I had mentioned last week that the natural property of the Jewish people when they are righteous is called Telomeres and Oz, beauty and might. I spoke about that. And I mentioned also that when we are not zocher, when we don't merit, obviously, because we sin in the galut and so on, exile, right? That we lose the Telomeres and Oz. We lose the beauty and the might. And I mentioned what the beauty is. The beauty is chokhmah, wisdom. And I mentioned what might is strength and success. So we lose that. And then I went into an example. I used Monmouth College as an example. A nobody university looks magnificent. And meanwhile, you look at certain shuls and you wonder, when are they going to tear it down and build something else? You see. And we say, Ad Mosai Utzcho Bashvi, in Tachman, every day. And for how long will your might, Utzcho, Oiz, Bashvi, be in captivity? Means they take it. Visif Altcho, and your beauty, right? The yad in the hands of the enemy, you see. How long will that be? Which means that they have usurped, which is a fancy word for stolen, right? And they have taken our beauty and our might, success. What is interesting, I want to point this out, I really wanted to do it last week, is this. What is the beauty of America, really? New York. Right? I'm not saying deal, but New York, right? The beauty of America is New York. It always was, right? That's the beauty of America. Do you see what's happening to New York lately? It's no longer beautiful. It's a shamble, right? And nobody understands what's going on. Because all these people, basically, Hochul, right, and Eric Adams, they're incompetent, obviously. They don't know how to solve this problem, the elementary problem of safety. Incredible. And then, of course, once you don't feel safe in a city, you flee. And that's exactly what's happening. And not only that, all the shops are closing, right? Stores are closing, shops are closing, restaurants are closing, and everybody's moving out. I shouldn't say everybody, but wait a minute. So you have to ask yourself, wait a minute. This can't be because the Goyim have taken the Telomeres and Oz. What's happening? Right? Because New York and the whole eastern part, and so many different cities in the United States, Seattle and Mississippi, right? Oregon, all of them, they're, in many ways, they're beautiful cities. Yet they're all being destroyed. I mean, San Francisco, people say, used to be one of the most beautiful cities in the United States. And now it's fundamentally a glorified toilet. I hate to use that expression because it's quite gross. That's what it is. How is that possible? How stupid can people be that they allow their residents, which had such beauty, right, success and beauty, to deteriorate so rapidly? I mean, we're looking at 2 years. We're not looking at a century of abuse. And the answer is, because the beauty and the might of Esav is being restored to the Jews. That's why. That's it. That's the Telomeres and Oz coming back to the Jews. That's why you find, right, that these Telomeres and Oz, beauty and might, right, is being taken away from America and is being given to Jews, Israel. That's why Israel is a startup nation. Why do you think? You think it's because Jews are so bright? And the answer, of course, they are bright. But you need more than being bright. You need the will of God. God says, I want to make you successful. I want to give you tremendous chokhmah, wisdom. That's exactly what Israel has. They are the leaders in many, many areas of the world. In fact, it's safe to say now that Israel is not a third world country, although it acts like that. It's not a second world country. It's a first world country. I mean, they are leaders in cybersecurity, computers, water conservation, agriculture. I mean, it's incredible what they're leaders in. Their high-tech industry is tremendous. So, that's why it's astonishing that they are so poorly run. That's because of the Erev Rav. Without getting into that, you see. So what we see is what's called a reversal. It's going from Esau, right, to the Jews. That's the amazing thing, because we are getting back our Tzeres and Ois. That's what's happening. Obviously, the very good sign of that is this only happens right before Mashiach. So that's a real sign that things are beginning to flip, you see, because that can only happen right before Mashiach comes. Very interesting idea. And that also means a lot of other ideas that I want to go into. Before I continue, however, so that I wanted to say last week, I just wanted to say that this year should be a merit for the health and success of the families of Regina Bas Yosef Reuven and Yeshaya ben Yisrael. Go find Aliyah's Neshama of these people. Anyway, and source of merit. In any case, that's a very important idea, that in the end of time, things will switch over to the Jewish people. And ultimately, I mentioned last week, the Telomeres and Ois, the beauty and might of the whole world will go to the Jewish people, all of it, you see. And that is the Messianic era, where it says, always run to see a king of the nations of the world. Why? Because this is a drop in the bucket of the glory and honor that will be given to the Mashiach, the Jewish people. So it says, if you want to, so the Talmud encourages you to run to look at the entourage of a president. It's amazing when you look at these guys, you realize that these people are really nothing. But the office of the presidency carries with it an unbelievable dignity and strength and a display of power, you see. And all of that will go over to the Mashiach, and the Jews at that time, like I said, all the Telomeres and Ois is restored to the Jews, and they are therefore the greatest nation on earth. Well, of course, obviously, we all tremendously look forward to that. So, we now understand something very important, right? That we get back what we lost. And by the way, that's part of the meaning of Galut. Galus is when you cannot be what you really are. You see, because we are in exile. We have lost a great deal of our abilities. And that's why it's very hard to become spiritual today. Because we, in many ways, we don't have access to that. And so on. In any case, now, but how does it in many ways end? And I want to talk about something which I believe most people never heard of, how it really, in the end, all ends. And I will show you from the Chumash and from rabbis, the Chazal, the rabbinic sayings and so on, how they allude to this. Although it's interesting, they don't say openly, whatever reason, but they clearly allude to this, you see. And this is ultimately what will happen, you see. We say in davening by Oz Yoshir, at the end of Oz Yoshir, in the Shachris prayers, V'olu Moshim Bihar Yoim, and their saviors will ascend on the mount of Zion, the Hatzion. Do what? Nishpoit is Har Esav. Judge Esav. Well, that's obviously the end of time. Who are these people? Because it doesn't say the Olah Moshiach, singular. It says the Olu Moshiim, and the saviors will arise on the Mount of Zion. Who are they? Well, there's a lot to talk about that, but basically in a very simple way, plural. One is Mashiach ben Yosef, and the other is Mashiach ben David. They will arise at the Mount of Zion. You see, to do what? They will judge the mountain of Esav, which means they will judge Esav. See, that's what it says. Now that in many ways alludes to a very important idea. What happens on Har Zion? Because it says, and they will ascend the mountain of Zion. Really? What happens on the mountain of Zion that they ascend to judge the mountain of Esav? And of course, that's the end. Where they will judge Esav for what he has done for thousands of years of butchering the Jewish people and so on, you know. What will happen, you see? Or what is on the mountain of Zion? And the answer is, well, on the mountain of Zion is the third Beis HaMikdash. That's what Har Zion really is. You know, we lack it today, but really, it's the third Beis HaMikdash. So when the third Beis HaMikdash, and if you recall, I said that the Gemara says, the Gemara Yerushalmi Masechta Ma'aser Sheni, that the Gemara brings proof that the third temple will be built before Mashiach ben David, not after. That's most people make that mistake. They think Mashiach ben David will come and he'll build the Beit HaMikdash. No. The Beit HaMikdash, the third one, will be built before Ben David comes. That must mean that it's built in the time of Mashiach ben Yosef. Isn't that amazing? So before the total redemption, which happens by Ben David, the Beit HaMikdash will be built. I spoke a lot about that, and I believe that is the way that God will change the consciousness of the entire planet. Imagine waking up one morning, and all of a sudden it says, right, hey, there's a building where the mosque used to be, and guess what? It's the Beit HaMikdash in its full glory, because God will build it. He will bring it down, as I once mentioned, which is really a very important idea, because I mentioned what that is. I told you that the third Beit HaMikdash is really the Beit HaMikdash in heaven, because we know that Jerusalem has a parallel in heaven called Yerushalayim Shel Maila. The Beit HaMikdash has the same thing. It has a parallel in heaven. What's the difference between that and this other than location? Because the Beit HaMikdash here, what is the essential concept of a Beit HaMikdash? And the answer is, it's a residence of God. Shechina. That's the residence of the divine presence. It's really what it is. However you want to understand that. But it is a certain degree of presence, of divine presence. Highly limited. But the Beit HaMikdash Nemaila in heaven, which is called the Olin Netzira, has a level of divine presence which is beyond comprehension. It is beyond comprehension, the level. So what the Beit HaMikdash Nemaila really is, it is the upper Beit HaMikdash will descend and become physical and come down. And that is the beginning of a merger between the spiritual dimensions and the physical world. That's very, very important. Because ultimately speaking, what God wants to do, and I said this before, He wants to spiritualize the physical universe. Right? Could change it. Right now we're all physical, right? But God will change it, and it will take several thousand years. How long it takes, but it doesn't make a difference. We're all waiting for the Messianic era. Once that starts. But the beginning of the spiritualization of a physical world is that third Beit HaMikdash. Because that's the Beit HaMikdash L'mayla, the Beit HaMikdash above, right? That descends and becomes part of our physical world. But the amazing thing is that even though that's true, becomes part of the physical world, it will maintain the same degree of divine presence that it has up there. Can you imagine a physical Beit HaMikdash, which used to be the upper one, that has now become physical? And it's magnificent to behold. You see, the Beit HaMikdash of Herod, because he rebuilt the Beit HaMikdash and so on, was the most magnificent temple in the entire world. It was one of the wonders of the world, and so on. That's what the Romans destroyed. Right? So could you imagine that Beit HaMikdash, number one, physical. But the real thing is, wait a minute, the level of Shekhinah, of divine presence, of that spiritual Beit HaMikdash which became physical, is the same level that it was when before it descended. Unbelievable. We don't even know what that is. That's the level of divine presence among the Malachim, among the angels. That's really what it is, up there. And that will descend, right? What is that called? That is called the Messianic Light, right? That's what it means when it says, Kimola Oretz Deyo, and the world will be filled with the knowledge of God, as the waters covers the seabed. Can you imagine how much water there is on the oceans, in the rivers, in the lakes, and so on, right? That amount of water we can equate with the level of, or the degree of, divine presence. You have any idea what that is? Beyond belief. It's billions and trillions of times more, right, than the Beit HaMikdash, the first and the second Beit HaMikdash. That is what's going to be on the third Beit HaMikdash. And it's the beginning of the spiritualization of the physical universe. And that's how it's slowly. So first you have the Beit HaMikdash, right, that begins. And then you have the Sheikh ben Yosef, who himself becomes more and more spiritual. And then all the Jews themselves become more spiritual. Yes, all of you will change. But not only change physically, you'll really change conscious-wise. You'll have an entirely different understanding, consciousness of who you are and what the world is. That is the Messianic era. That is what's on Har Zion. That Beit HaMikdash. You see? So imagine the Mashiachin, right? Sheikh ben Yosef and Sheikh ben David, when they're finally both together, they are going to judge the Mount of Esav. Wow. You see? And that's why it says, famous pasuk, it's on many of the Oren, the Bima, the Oren, and so on, and Shul, in Mitzion Teitzi Torah, or from Zion will come forth the Torah, with Hashem in Yerushalayim, in the Word of God, from Jerusalem. What's Mitzion? In Mitzion will come forth Torah. What Torah? What Zion? That is the Beit HaMikdash on Mount Zion, right? That will come forth, right? That Torah is the Torah of the Mashiach. Yeah, that's what Kimitzin takes it Torah really is. And the Word of God, with Hashem, from Jerusalem. Because that will be prophecy, right? The Word of God is prophecy. And that will come forth from Jerusalem. Because Jerusalem and Mount Zion, which is the Beit HaMikdash, will be the center of the entire planet. You see, like it says, and God says, and my house will be a house of prayer for all nations. Who's my house? The Beit HaMikdash. So that Beit HaMikdash isn't just another building. It is central to the experience, the Messianic process. It is central. And that's why it has to take place before the end, before Mashiach ben David. It has to come down. Because that's what kicks off consciousness, you see. So, and then you're going to have Lishpoit to judge the mountain of Esav. You see. It's a very important concept. Tells you what's going to happen. You see. Now, the question that we really have to ask is something else, which is really very interesting, you see. And that is, wait a minute. What is the Messianic Light's power? That's number one. And why is it that has to happen to judge the mountain of Esav? Lishpoit Esav. Why that? Why can't they judge the mountain of Esav before that? You see? Why does it have to be Moshe and Behar Tzion and the two Messiahs? That's when they will judge, right? The mountain of Esav and so on, you know? And the answer to that is a very important concept. We know that there are different levels of tum'ah, of defilement, contamination, or evil, or darkness. They all basically come to mean the same thing. They are environments which is devoid of the belief of God. That's what they are. In any case, you see. So, there are 49 levels of tum'ah. Memteshai tum'ah. Famous. Because that was the level that the Jews had reached in Egypt. They were Memteshai tum'ah. As I'll say this, quite known. I had mentioned that we are now in the 49th level of tum'ah. You see. But there is a level of tum'ah that's greater. There's a level of ignorance and darkness. And as we will see, completely ignore God. That is worse. And that is the root of evil. That's called the Zoyamah. The Satan has a certain ability to project an environment. You see, a consciousness, which he does. And that's called the root, is called the Zoyamah. That Zoyamah is called defilement, damnation. But what it really is he is a being, the Satan is a being, right, that is into complete destruction. He kills, he's the one that takes lives, everything. He decomposes matter. He's responsible for the law of entropy, many, many different things. And the way he does it is with his power of evil or destruction and so on. That's called Zoyamah. So the interesting thing about it is this. Even if you take out the 49 levels of Tumah, right, how do you get rid of his Zoyamah? Because he's the root of all evil. He's the root of all darkness and ignorance. You see? So how do you get rid of this guy? And how do you get rid of his Zoyamah? Because the Zoyamah, or his projection of this tremendous amount of darkness and evil and so on, is in each of our bodies. That's why we die. Why do you think we decompose? Why do we age? Why do we get sick? What is it that destroys everything? And the answer is his Zoyamah. He is invested in the physical world. And Adam Arishan, after the sin, fell into the physical world. Because Adam Arishan was spiritual, you see. And he was, although he engaged in physical things, he himself wasn't really physical, you see. But when he sinned, he became thoroughly physical. And therefore, he entered the world of the Zayama. Because he became subject to the influence of the Satan. And we don't even know how, we don't experience it. Although I once mentioned there are physical indicators, for instance, like what happens when a person dies? Why don't the cells just keep reproducing? They do it 49 times. Why don't they just keep reproducing? Interesting question. Why do they stop? And they do stop. That's why we die. Because our cells stop. And obviously they wear out. There's nothing to replace. You're dead. That's what death is. I mean, physically anyway. So why doesn't it reproduce? And the answer is that biologists have discovered a group of tissues, of cells called telomeres. A telomere is like a shoelace with a cap at the end. The telomere prevents the chromosome in the cell from unraveling. The problem is every time that cell reproduces, it shortens by one telomere. So after 49 times of reproducing, no more telomeres. So the chromosome unravels. Isn't that interesting? Well, guess what? If your chromosomes unravel because nothing binding them, you're dead. That's what happens. Everybody has telomeres, and it all stops after reproducing, I think, 49 times, which is an amazing number, because that's exactly how much tumor levels there are. But this is what happens. You see? It's interesting, explaining death. So if you could lengthen the life of a telomere where they would not cease to be, you'd live forever. Because your cells would keep reproducing. So the only way a guy would die is through an accident, obviously. But he would not die a natural death because he's always reproducing, you see. And that's what happens. Amazing. A baby's born, right? And on the day he's born, he's already dying. The cells are dying because they reproduce. Every time they reproduce, telomere goes down. The great thing about a baby is he's always reproducing, right? And he does that till about 22 years old. After 22 years old, your body begins to diminish its ability to reproduce. So the cells don't reproduce as much, and so on. And then from 22 years and on, it's all downhill.
Is that why we're going to be incarnated at 22 years old?
Yes. Like that's the ideal. I'm sure you all have pictures of what you look like at 22 years old. Right? And if you don't, just ask your husband for the picture, whatever, because we all look great at 22. We had full strength, right? We were jumping with energy, youth, energy, vitality. Wow. Now you look at yourself in the mirror and you can't believe what you see, right? Why? Because telomeres disappearing, right? And so on. Anyways, but so a telomere is a physical analog of Zayama. What it is. So before the Zayama came into, or before Adam fell into the physical universe and became physical, right, there were no telomeres. Or maybe there was, we don't know how it operated, but there was no death. Remember? God said on the day you eat, you'll die. That means on that day you're going to get telomeres that's going to shorten. And it's going to be over and finished. You see? So it's very interesting. You can actually see the physical manifestation, the Zayama. So there are 49 levels of tumah, means there are 49 like a wheel. In the middle is the Zayama, the incredible root force of the Satan that gives rise to 49 spokes, like a wheel, you see. So the problem is, okay, we can get rid of the levels of tumah, which is what they did in Egypt. That's why they have 49 days. Every day they counted, right? and they were able to get rid of one level of the spokes until they got to the 50th day. What was left? The Zoyama itself, the root of everything, right? And what they had done, the Jews at that time in Egypt, I mentioned, they gave a whole bunch of film on that, is that they had extracted the Zoyama from the physical body. They actually did it because of whatever they did in Egypt. So it comes out that the Satan was external to the human body. Never happened before. They replicated the way they were at the time of Adam Rishon before the sin. Gemara said that the Jews were equal to Adam Rishon before the sin. No death. Whatever, right? So the Satan was going crazy to re-enter the physical world, which he did because of the sin of the golden calf. So the sin of the golden calf allowed the Satan to re-enter with his Zoyama into the physical universe. You see? So that's what happened. Okay? But in the end, if the Satan at the time of the giving of the Torah would have been, right, how would God have destroyed that Zoyama? And the answer is the Torah. That's the power of the Torah. It is the Torah, the Luchos Rishonos. What was that? The Luchos Rishonos is the Messianic Light. The first tablets is the Messianic Light. So that is the root of the entire Torah. It's the equivalent, so to speak, of the Zoyama by the Satan. You have root against root. You see, it's literally the bottom, the ultimate cause. So had the Jews not sinned at the golden calf, right, then the Luchos Rishonos, the power of that Torah, right, that consciousness would have destroyed the Zoyama. Guess what? You kill the Satan. So you need the Messianic Light, if you think about it, right, to destroy the Zoyama. That's what we see. So that's why. Why do they judge Esau? Because you need Hatzion. You need the Messianic Light of the Beis Hamikdash on the mountain of Zion, Hatzion. Then they could judge Esau, the Zoyama, because the angel of Esau is Satan. His power is that Zoyama, you see. So you need one to destroy the other. It's a very important idea that it takes a Mashiach to kill the Satan. You can't do it any other way. There's no way to remove that Zoyama, because you need the root of the Torah, or the Torah in its greatest form of consciousness, you see, in its greatest form of revelation, to be able to shove out the Zoyama, which is the root of evil, the power source of the Satan. So now I understand why it has to be Hatzion, right? Makes sense. See? Now it doesn't say openly this, which is always interesting, but you see how you derive this. It's alluded to because, wait a minute, they will ascend the Mount of Zion to judge Esau. What do you mean Mount of Zion? We see. Mount of Zion, the Beis Hamikdash, with the Messianic Light, then to judge Esau, which is to wipe out the Satan and his Zoyama, which is exactly what's going to happen, that the Satan will die, the Zoyama, because of the Messianic Light. Now we understand why we need the Beis Hamikdash. Without that, you can destroy 49 levels. You can't get to the root. Very interesting. You know where you really see that also, which is really fascinating? It says when Yaakov Avinu fell asleep, remember he left Haran, he got the blessings of Isaac, Yitzchak, he left Haran, right? And on the way, he went to sleep. Where? On Hatzion, on Har Moriah, Mount Moriah, which is Hatzion. Remember? And he had the dream of the ladder, famous, right? Famous dream. He saw angels going up and angels going down. Now, obviously, there's a great deal of mystical ideas in that, but it says that he saw the angels, the angels that represent the enemies of the Jews, the malachim of the nations that want to destroy the Jews, because each nation has an angel that represents it in the heavenly tribunal that tries to protect it. We encounter we know the malach of Esau is himself. Then you had the malach of Egypt, the malach of Yishmael. They all have angels that represent them, plead for them, against the judgment, you see. So it says that he saw the angels of these nations going up. But then it says that he dreamt, and he would see each nation that represents, or each angels of each nation that represents that nation going up. And guess what? They were coming down, which means they were being destroyed. So that was great. But then it says, he saw the angel of Esau. Who's that? Satan. He's going up and up and up, and he didn't come down. So Yaakov Avinu says to the birds for them, they said, we're finished. You can't bring this guy down. You see, the power of the Zoyamah, the root of evil, it's beyond measure. It's almost infinite. And he was very, very concerned. Now, what that really means, like I said last week, that the sins of the Jews, according to the measure of God, is so great that we will keep empowering the Satan, who knows how high. So Yaakov Avinu did not see the Satan's malach, or rather Esau's malach, coming down. So he asked God, he said, does that mean we're finished? So God said, no, don't worry. I will bring him down. I mean that even though they are not worthy, they don't have enough koyach, energy, nuclear power, right, to bring this guy down, I will bring him down. But that's what God swore to Yaakov. Now that has to be understood. You see? What do you mean he was up there and God says, I will bring him down? What does that mean, I will bring him down? Because it takes the Messianic Light, which is the consciousness of God, the third base Hamikdash, that will destroy the Satan. I, means my Messianic Light, consciousness of the third base Hamikdash will destroy him. That's what the illusion is. It makes sense. So God means I will bring him down. It is my Torah, my Messianic Light. That will bring him down. Because the only thing that can bring down the root of all evil is the root of all good, the root of all holiness. You see? And that's why it makes sense that Yaakov Avinu did not see him coming down. Astounding when you think about that. The power. And that, by the way, is indicative, which I mentioned last week, of that's what Mar-a-Lago really is. When people, the DOJ, Department of Justice, or should I say the Department of Injustice, right? Or the FBI, right? Federal Bureau of Criminality, whatever, right? When they can go into the house of a president of the United States, rifle through his drawers, including his wife's undergarments, which last week, that is, you know what a bazillion humiliation that is? But the interesting thing is this: why Americans are fools. Mar-a-Lago is not just a disgrace of Trump or his wife. It's a disgrace of the presidency. No matter what you held from Trump, but he still was president. He still had the dignity of office. So by humiliating him, right, you've stated, this is what I think of the presidency. You see? But how do you do that? It's your own, you are fouling up your own waters. How do you do this kind of stuff? You know what I'm saying? Where's the dignity? Because he was president. And not only that, and so on, 'Cause that's what Americans are. I hate to say that, but it's really very bothersome, They don't realize that the ultimate humiliation of America, not just of Trump, you see, but of course, they don't even think this way. They're so busy trying to destroy this man, the Democratic Party, and so on, you see. But anyway, this then is what Mar-a-Lago is the ultimate display of the Malach of Esav, Satan, going up, 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 and not coming down. That they can take a president of the United States and wash the floor with him, use him as a mop. You see, it's interesting. Trump has a lot of hair, and they're using his hair as the mop. That's what they did. Use him as a mop. Mata, as they say in Yiddish. That's what Mar-a-Lago is. Mar-a-Lago really is the ultimate display of the victory of the Zoyama, all the way to the nth degree. That's what they did. You can't get worse than that in terms of the humiliation of the United States itself, you see. Anyway, that's what they did. But that, I mentioned last week, is really the beginning of the end. Because God always raises the enemy so it thinks it's invincible. And then when he destroys it, demonstrates the incredible power of God. Right? So God is not going to destroy a weakling. Big deal. So he makes them the greatest nation on earth, the most powerful, and then he'll wipe them out. But that's an open display of what's called Yad Ramah. That God says, we left Egypt in the middle of the day, not at night where we snuck out. In the middle of the day, the Yad Ramah, with an uplifted hand, in your face, we're going out. That's what God does. See? So that demonstrates the absolute supremacy of God. Very important concept. But this is a concept, as I said, of the ladder. That's why it's so high, it doesn't look like coming down, you see? Because the Zoyama is almost impossible to get rid of. So it needs God, the Messianic Light, the third Beis HaMikdash, to wipe them out. Notice how all these rabbis, Azal, illustrate this concept and so on, of how the Zoyama will ultimately be destroyed. You see. And we know that's what it is, because God says, on that day, Umol Hashem es levavchem, and God will circumcise your heart, and He will remove the blockage, you see. And truly, that's what circumcision really is, the removal of blockage. And that's the destruction of the Zoyama, you see. And consciousness will change. It will completely change. That's a very important idea. That you need the Nun Shari Bina, the 50 gates of wisdom, or the Nun Shari Kedusha, the 50 gates of holiness, counteract the 50th gate of Rama. So we're no longer dealing with how you get rid of the 49 levels. No. You need the 50th level of holiness to destroy the 50th level of Zayama. That's really what it is. See? So it's 50 against 50. And the Zayama, of course, will be destroyed. It's a very important concept, you see. Anyway, and we now also understand another pasuk in the Torah, all because we understand how the Zayama will be destroyed. Because it says at the end of the Torah, and Moshe Rabbeinu blesses all the nations, right? So he talks about Yosef, and it says the following: B'chol Sholoi, the firstborn of his ox. Yosef is described as an ox. The firstborn of his ox. Chodoroi, beauteous is. You see, the Kanya aim and the horn of this ox, is not the horns of an ox. It is the horns of the Re'im, which is a mystical animal, you see. And then it says, Ubehem, and with these horns, this ox is going to gore the nations. That's very interesting. What's he talking about? You know, the beauty of this ox. His horns are magnificent. And with these horns, he's going to gore the nations. Well, B'chor Shura, who's the firstborn of the tribe of Yosef? Shiur ben Yosef. And his horns, they're not horns, right? It's a metaphor. What emanates from a head? Chokhmah, wisdom. So what Moshe Rabbeinu is saying is that the wisdom that emanates from the head of the Mashiach ben Yosef is unbelievably magnificent. Yes. Right? And what's he going to do with those horns? What is the Mashiach ben Yosef going to do with those horns, with that unbelievable wisdom? Right? He's going to gore the nations. You see? But wait a minute. Mashiach ben Yosef, his wisdom, what wisdom is that? That is the Messianic Light, isn't it? So if he's going to gore the nations, he's going to gore them with the Messianic Light. But wait a minute. What does it mean to gore the nations? That's the Zoyama. He's going to destroy the Zoyama, the Satan. So what do we see? That he's going to destroy the Zoyama of the Satan. He will gore the nations. How? By the wisdom that emanates from his head. Right? What wisdom is that? The Messianic Light. So there you are. Again, Messianic Light is the 50th gate of wisdom, holiness, and that is the light that will destroy the Zoyama. There you are. It's almost like the Pasuk is screaming at you and saying, what's he going to do with this energy, this unbelievable wisdom, beauty of this wisdom first? What's he going to do with that? He's going to have might. What is that might? He's going to gore the nations. But what is goring? Why would you need the energy of his head, the Messianic Light, to gore the nations? You see? Because the nations have the Zoyama. Can't get rid of the Zoyama. The only thing that will destroy the Zoyama is the Messianic Light. You see? Root against root. That's what God says. Don't worry, I will bring him down. Not you or the Jewish people. I will bring him down. How? By the light of the third Beis Hamikdash. That all connects. Isn't that interesting? How all the dots connect, never really spelling out what is the weapon of choice, which is the 50th level of wisdom. Isn't that amazing? I just find that to be amazing. How the Torah can talk on and hide what it's really saying. You see? But that's obviously what it is. You know, the Zoyama, you need the level, the 50th level, the 50th gate of holiness, wisdom, Teres, beauty, ois, might. That's what will destroy the Satan. Very, very important concept, you see. But it's not an easy business. I want to tell you something now. And everybody has to think about this. Moshe Rabbeinu made a mistake. I don't say this. Torah says this. Because God sent Moshe Rabbeinu to bring out the Jews from Egypt. Meanwhile, Moshe Rabbeinu comes to Egypt, and Pharaoh says, they're lazy. You're not sending them out. Who are you kidding? He defied Moshe, didn't he? But not only defied Moshe, defied God. Because God said, let the Jews go out. So here's Pharaoh, right, laughing at God. That's the ultimate defiance of God. And this happened after Moshe Rabbeinu came, not before, right? So Moshe Rabbeinu did not understand what's going on here. I don't understand. God sent me, not somebody else. He sent me by the burning bush. Take the Jews out. Now, how in the world does God allow this person to defy him so brazenly, so openly? Incredible. So Moshe Rabbeinu did not understand, and he ran back to God, the end of Parashat Shmos, and he said, Loma hare oisa loma zeh. Why have you done evil to this people, and you have not sent them out? You see, so Moshe Rabbeinu is judging God, and he's saying to God, what'd you do this for? Not only is he judging God, he's condemning God. He's saying you did an evil. You know, it's one thing if Moshe Rabbeinu would have said, what'd you do this for? I don't understand the reasoning. How in the world can the Messiah come and it got worse? Right? But the problem is Moshe Rabbeinu didn't say that. He said, why have you done evil to this nation? Which in his estimation, he did an evil to the Jewish people. What did God say? No, you can't be saying this. You are questioning my attributes. Called Mahara after Midosai. You are questioning who I am and what I do. And you are condemning me that I do evil. No, this is no good. You will be punished. And God actually says, you know, I used to have a guy, Avraham Avinu, he never questioned me. He was never Mahara after my midas. He didn't think about my attributes, my characteristics, and say, how could you be doing this? What's wrong with you? You're doing evil. Imagine talking to God and saying, why have you done evil? Excuse me. So God says, you know, I miss Avraham Avinu. He never used to question me, even when I told him to slaughter his son. And you, okay, I understand you're upset, you know, but you already are condemning me. You can't do this. So God punished him. He said, now you will see what I will do to Paroi. So Rashi brings down, that was an implication. Now you will see what I will do to Paroi. But you will not see what I do to the 31 nations of Israel. That you will not enter the land of Israel. That was the decree. That's when it started. Right? Because if you condemn me, you don't have the trust in who I am, right? Even though obviously, I mean, the observation is it got much worse, right? You can't do that. You cannot be Mahara after the midas of the Baruch. No matter how bad it looks, right? No matter how contradictory it looks. Can't do that. And Moshe Rabbeinu certainly should have known. You know, and of course we could say, well, he was so upset because now it got much worse for the Jews, which it did for months. It's really bad news. Terrible news. And I explained why that happened. Because they had to satisfy justice. Because they didn't deserve the Messianic approach. They didn't deserve it. God said, and the Sultan was screaming his head off, you can't bring the Mashiach. I don't deserve it. So God said, you're right, and I have to satisfy justice. I'm making them suffer much more. That's why he did it. So in the end, it's what enabled the redemption. Without that suffering that Moshe Rabbeinu sort of caused, they could not get out of Egypt. Because justice said, you can't do this. And God always basically adheres to justice. Moshe Rabbeinu did not realize that, you see, and he judged God, and he condemned God. And he was punished. And he was not allowed to go into Eretz Yisrael. Could you believe this? Because if you judge me and you find me wanting, you do not deserve to be a leader of the Jews. Because a leader of the Jews must accept judgment of God with 100% totality, certainty. And unfortunately, Moshe Rabbeinu learned that the hard way. And the reason for that, because, Moshe Rabbeinu, you think about it, he's only human, but obviously much more is expected from him than from other people, you see. And he was, like I say, he was punished because he questioned the attribute of God. We live in a terrible time. We live in a time when it completely contradicts what God said what happens to the Jews. Right? There's no spirituality, basically. It's all superficial. If you think we're spiritual, We're a million miles ahead of spirituality. Everything is physical, right? Of course I want to have a great sukkah. I'm heading off to Acapulco to have sukkah, right? I can have the beach, right? Of course I can go to the beach because they still kosher hot dogs on the beach. What's the problem here, right? Are we really spiritual? We are, but it's, as I say, it's never, same thing, right? This is our spirituality, Yeah, of course you're going to enjoy a great Pesach with matzah and all that, right? But it's going to be in Venice, where during Chalamoid you can go all around, have a great time in Italy and so on, This is the whole concept of spirituality, right? It's all about travel, having a great time, right? Best cuisines, 5-star cuisine, all about that, right? God forbid you'd have a hotel without a 5-star menu, right? How could you celebrate Pesach, right? You feel sorry for all those Jews that have to stay home never and get the plain matzo ball soup, whatever they get. So, anyway, our spirituality is the lowest rung. You don't realize that. We think this is fabulous. Wow, the guy's going to celebrate Pesach. Yeah, because he's going to Dubrovnik. Well, why not? Down by the Baltics. What? What? Pesach is that? And whatever. I'm not even talking about other kinds of Pesach when a guy goes to shows, hits and shows and dancing girls or whatever else they got there. I'm not even going into that type of Pesach, right? But believe me, it happens. And so on, right? So not only have we descended unbelievable depths of inferiority in terms of spirituality. Okay, but that's what we do. But it's much worse than that. I want to tell you something. We are now, my feeling is, it's surprising, we are not in the 49th level of Tumah. We are in the Zoyama itself. I'll tell you why. Wow. That means we have hit the rock bottom. You don't go lower than that. That's it. You ain't go lower. There's nothing lower. It's either the Zoyama, the Satan, purely satanic, and so on. Why? Because America has reached a new low, and since America is the beacon of the world is going to reach this low. You see? What does that mean? So now everybody's into denying God. God? Forget about God, right? There's a tremendous movement against religion. I'm not even going to anti-Semitism, but there's also anti-Catholicism. You see? America, there's a great deal of people against religion in general in America. You see? There's a movement. That's why there's such a rise of denial of God. You see? But besides the denial of God, right, there's a defiance of God. That's the next madrega. People defy. Defiance of God has now become a way of life, right? Especially in the matters of sexual perversion. Today, if you don't have a partner, same gender partner, something wrong with you, right? Today it's preferable to have a same gender partner. You don't have it? That's why America has become, and it's not just America. Unfortunately, Israel is trying to run after America and so on, with this gay pride. What do you mean gay pride? Pride. Got to be happy. Got to be proud to be this, right? There's all kinds of, sexual promiscuity. I don't see any of this stuff, but people tell me it's all over the television, all over the internet. It's just all over, all of this, you see? So what is I always find interesting, so I once said that the reason why the Mabul was sealed to destroy the world is because if a guy would marry a guy, right, he'd have to write a ksuba. Imagine going to a wedding and some guy's marrying another guy, and they call up some Rav to read the Ksuba, right? You'd plot. You'd faint, right? You call up the rabbi to read the Ksuba, right? Don't you call up a rabbi to read the Ksuba or whatever, right? But excuse me, Ksuba for what? Some guy's marrying another guy. Or the Medrash says, if a guy would marry his animal, his pet, he loves his pet, right? He wants to marry his pet. Well, bestiality, whatever, right? And so on, When we look at that, we can't believe this took place. But it is taking place now. Now. But there's something else that's taking place. And my feeling is this is the Zohar law. The other two were the Mem test, 49th level of Tumah, terrible darkness and evil and defilement and contamination and immorality and so on, But there's something worse. And my feeling is that this is the Zohar law. So the bad news is that we're in the Zohar law. We hit rock bottom. The good news is that when you get to the Zohar law, that's when God will unleash 50th gate of holiness. Because that's the only thing that will bring down the Zohar law. There is nothing else, in the repertoire of God. He's got to bring the Beis HaMikdash and the whole Messianic process. It's unbelievable. What is that indicated to me? I will tell you. Until now, they deny God. And then they defy God. Right? And now everybody's into dismissing creation. Where a guy says, I'm not a guy, I'm a girl. What's your problem? You can't call me he. You got to ask me my pronoun. And if you don't ask me, you're fired. You don't realize what's going on in corporate America. If you say the wrong word, if you call someone by the wrong pronoun, you're fired. You know what that is? Excuse me, for what? I read there was a story where a teacher was reading the names of the students to make sure that they're present. They got to one student, called out her name, and she said, meow. But she held she was a cat. So he ignored the meow, right? Right? What is this? And he mentioned her name as present. He was fired. Or he's suspended. Why? Because she's a cat. How dare you refer to her as a girl or as a human? Are you crazy? Is that where we've come? Yes. And the guy was fired, or he's suspended, or whatever it is. You think he doesn't believe what just happened to him? And this is happening all over America. If you say the wrong words, you're out. You say the wrong pronoun, you're out. You may not see it as much because you live in a Jewish community, a religious community. You don't see this insanity as blatant, right, as what you see now. But what does that mean? What do you mean? A guy says, I'm not a guy, I'm a girl. I mentioned, I have a student who was in Manhattan. They had to use the restroom, right? They went to the restroom, and he's passing the women's bathroom, right? And there's a sign. And the sign says, if you feel that you want to express your feelings of femininity and so on, he was talking to men, by the way, then please feel free to enter a woman's bathroom and do what you want to do. On the contrary, feel free to express and express your humanity, right? Can you imagine reading this, right? In other words, I'm just waiting for the day, right, that some guy's going to walk into a woman's mikveh. Right? And you can't throw them out. It's called discrimination. And that can get you in a lot of problems. With the board of the mikveh will fire you or whatever. Right? And so on. You don't realize that's the same logical idea, right? And so on. You can't believe what you read. It's embarrassing even to talk about that, but How else am I going to indicate to you how the depth of the perversions going on? Some guy walked into a woman's bathroom, shower room. He sits down. So they're all there taking shower, whatever, So they looked at the guy, excuse me, what are you talking about? I'm a woman. I have a right to be here. So there was some 85-year-old woman that wants to take a shower and says, I'm not doing this in front of you. You believe this? And you couldn't kick the guy out? He has a right to be there. Where have we come? This is the Zoyama. Because you're dismissing creation. Not that you're denying God, right? And you're defying His will. You're dismissing the whole concept. Excuse me, you're a man. There's a biology attached to that. You're a woman. There's a biology attached to that. What in the world are you talking about, right? So what they have done is they have said there is no biology. It's all transferable. It's all removable or attachable, depending on what you want to do, right? It's beyond belief. They have dismissed creation, which is a biological fact, and now that you are held accountable, and you can get fired or whatever else they're cooking up there, you get sued or whatever, and now you fill out an application. It says what pronoun you want to be referred to as. What do you mean what pronoun? What is that supposed to mean? That's the Zoyama. That's what it is. It is an absolute dismissal of God and His creation. It's over with. It's all about man's arrogance. What it's all about. Everything else is irrelevant. Well, that's the Zoyama. The Zoyama is where God plays nothing, no role whatsoever in creation. All about us, man, and the greatness of man. You see, and that's my feeling. So the bad news is that we are in the Zoyama. The good news, well, if we're in the Zoyama, there's only one way to get rid of the Zoyama, and that's the third base on English. There's no other way. You know what I'm saying? And the interesting thing about that, and I hold that's why Mashiach is right around the corner, right, is that it's irrevocable, and you can't reverse this because they've constitutionalized this discrimination, anti-discrimination. It's part of the Constitution. So you can't say, are you crazy? What are you talking about? This is now part of the Constitution, you see. And it's going to get much worse, and so on. So that's where we're at. So what I wanted to emphasize very importantly is this whole concept that the only way to destroy the Zoyama is by marshaling, right, the Kedusha. But it's the 50th gate of holiness against the 50th gate of evil and darkness and so on. And in the end, that is the end when you really think about that. There is no going back, like I say, because it's part of the Constitution and so on. So it's like, there's good news and there's bad news, and we now see what is going on, And as I said, Mar-a-Lago is nothing more than the barometer, the symbol of this ultimate victory of the Zoyama. What it is. That the head of the government, the feds, right, that they can step all over a president and treat him like absolute garbage. And this is the presidency, right? This is what the contempt that they hold, not just Trump. This is a contempt that they hold of the presidency and so on, And they don't seem to realize what they're doing. I'm not even talking about the fact that they are destroying, they have destroyed credibility of the FBI, the DOJ. Nobody will ever look at the FBI the same. Tragedy of that is this is a federal agency, and there are a lot of decent people in the FBI. Obviously, not everybody's, but these guys at the top, Christopher Wray All the other Michigan crazy. Who? Yeah. Yeah. He's Jewish. American Jewish. Oh yeah, Jewish. Yeah, because you need the Erev Rav to help Esau win. There's always Jews. Always Jews. So that's the Erev Rav. The Erev Rav is not only in Israel trying to destroy the Torah. The Erev Rav is also with Esau trying to destroy the good part of Esau, which is Trump. Always that way, you see. So they have destroyed the respect and the authority of the FBI and the DOJ. And I forget about Biden. I mean, Biden is complete empty suit. And the fact that America allows this pathetic human being, and I mentioned last week what a Russia he is. If you remember, I mean, he's going crazy because of Uvalde, Texas, that 21 people died. That's tragic, right? But what about the 300 people that die every day from fentanyl? What happened to, this is every day, by the way, 140,000 people died last year from fentanyl. But wait a minute. That means the cartels are killing Americans. What's the difference if Americans order? Because they're fooled. Because the pills are now in color and all that, whatever, right? You are allowing a foreign country, right, kill Americans every day, right? 300 a day, 140,000 a year. How do you do that? What, are you crazy? So at least stop the illegal immigration. Just for that alone you have to stop. Or you have to go and stop the cartels. It's very easy to stop the cartels. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. That's the evil of America. It really is. I feel sorry for America. But the problem is, like they say, on the millstone of God grinds exceedingly slow. You ever see a millstone that you push? It grinds exceedingly slow, but exceedingly fine. When it gets to you, you wish you were never born. That's me, this I did. True, God is long-suffering, doesn't want to do this. He doesn't punish, even if you sin 1,000 times. Doesn't do that. Erech HaPayim. That's what he is. But there is a time when God said, there's enough is enough, and now I execute judgment, justice. And that's when he will crush. That's what you're seeing. And if you want to know an example of that, just check out Ukraine. Ukraine is being destroyed as we speak. And the incredible thing is that what's destroying Ukraine is a Jew, Zelensky, who's an absolute moron. So like I said, Putin never threatened the sovereignty of Ukraine. He just said, I don't want any missiles. Don't join NATO. So what Zelensky, the hero, should have said, okay, I'm not going to fight the Russian bear. I'm like crazy. I'm going to fight an 800-pound gorilla. He said, no, I got to be a hero. And I hear he's taking pictures for Vogue magazine lately, and they look, because that's really what it's all about. It's all about being a hero and looking good in front of the entire world. And he wiped out the greatest mass emigration ever known in the history of mankind is what's happening in Ukraine. 10 million people, I think, have fled. That's 25% of the population of that country. And I'm not even talking about the damage. Forget about the damage. Billions and hundreds of billions. And he wants the West to pay for it. And of course the West is going to pay, because they're all idiots. They should have turned to Zelensky and say, are you crazy? So you don't join NATO. And guess who advised them to join NATO? Biden. That nitwit. That moron. He told them, of course. Well, aren't you afraid that Russia's going to get really angry? Right? I mean, right? So Biden probably answered, Russia? Who's Russia? Right? And I mentioned last week something very important. Why is Biden president? Because that's what America deserves. You don't realize something. A country gets the leader it deserves. And we deserve Biden. That's what we deserve. Therefore, we have Biden as the president. You see? Imagine what it is, the level of America, if we deserve Biden. What are they complaining about? Anyway, that's where we're at. We are now in a huge swimming pool called the Zoyama. And we're swimming around in that swimming pool. Like I say, the main idea, the main good news is that this cannot go on longer. It can't go on. God will stop it. Just takes time, and we don't know why. He decides to wait before he comes down and crushes America, which he can do. He's already doing it, by the way. Why do you think China is growing? China now has a greater military, certainly a navy, than the U.S. Why? Because that's how he's threatening America. He's saying, you want to be a leader that wants to threaten my world? Guess what? I'm going to take it away from you. You see? I'll give it to China. And China is a real threat. We're not looking here about a third-rate nation. It's a real threat. The second greatest economy after America. You see? It doesn't take anything for God to reduce America to nothing, and China should be everything, and so on. Of course, Anyway, this is what's happening, and like I say, it should be very interesting for us to see, what happens as a result of this. Okay, yes, questions?
When you mentioned Mar-a-Lago, take the countdown in Hebrew. Mar, bitter.
Bitter, yes.
Alago, take those letters. Alago comes to 40. Aleph for A, 1.
Lamed is 30.
Lamed is 30. Gimel,
3.
33. And O, Lago, the Vav, 6. That's up to 40. The spit in yourself to 40. 40 was what? Isn't that the 40 days when Moshe Rabbeinu went up? And that's what we do in the 40 days from the time of Shavuot to Rosh Hashanah. There must be some connection to that, because that's how did Hashem pick a place where Trump is that adds up the bitterness of the 40 days?
How many days was the flood?
The flood? Also. Yes. 40 days and 40 nights. Correct. Here's the flood.
This is the.
I thought about it when he brought up the Malachi. I was thinking about it. Okay? The bitterness of the flood. The bitterness of the 40 days that Moshe went up and get on and show the heads up.
Well, Rosh Hashanah is in 30 days. Mar-a-Lago happened when? In Israel? Yes. What was that? Oh, yeah, it's all paid.
Let him answer Esther, because he's still recording. Okay, so now I have questions. Okay, so you said you were talking about the Mount of Esaf. Is there a real mountain?
Yes, Hashkafa.
Hashkafa.
Hashkafa, right.
Hashkafa.
Which is in the south of Israel, by the way.
We know where it is. We know which mountain, like?
We know the area of the mountain, yeah. He had the south of Israel.
Right. So how will he actually be judged by the Meshichim?
How?
Yeah, how? What will they do?
Well, like in everything else, what do you produce? A, what are you accused of? Right? That's number one. And number two, what's the evidence that you did this? That's all you need for judgment, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you accused of?
Right.
The event. And what's the evidence?
This will be done in front of the whole world?
Sure.
Unless you're
You want to know what he's accused of?
Hmm.
I'll tell you. You want to hear an interesting statistic? What Esav did? Remember who Esav is. Esav is Edom. Edom is Rome. Rome is Western civilization. Well, I should say Rome is Christianity. They took over Rome. And Christianity is Western civilization. You want to know what they did? Is what they did. Historians estimate 2,000 years ago, right? How many Jews were there? They estimate there was close to 10 million Jews. A lot of Jews in 2,000 years ago. Okay? How many Chinese were there? They estimate 25 million. We have 10 million Jews versus 25 million Chinese. Okay? That's what they estimate. How many Chinese are there today? 1.4 billion? Yes?
Mm-hmm.
So how many times 25 is that? It's 56 times.
Yeah.
But wait a minute, there was 10 million Jews. So 56 times 10 million, 560 million? That means there should be 560 million Jews based on normal propagation, reproduction, right? If they're 25 to 1.4 billion, we were 10 million, right? And we should have at least 560 million Jews. Yes? Same thing. More than half a billion, right? How many Jews are there?
15 million.
All
over the world.
Yeah. Isn't it odd?
Yes.
Did you ask yourself, you mean at the fourth, we go back further than the Chinese, the 4,000 years to Abraham. You mean in 4,000 years, all we could muster up was...
An extra 4 million. 10 million, 2,000.
Right. You mean all we can muster up is 15 million Jews? That's absurd. The Jews are the oldest race in antiquity that's still alive. And all we have is 15 million Jews? So then the question becomes obvious. What happened? There you are. Well, you had pogroms, inquisitions, expulsions, crusades, Holocaust, etc. All the slaughter. Then today, of course, but today anyway, what do we have? 50 million Jews. Today, what do we have? We have intermarriage, assimilation. That's what did it. What killed the Jews is the Goyim, the Christians. Therefore, they killed, not even intermarriage. No, there was no intermarriage years ago. Intermarriage is a 21st century phenomenon, right? What killed the Jews then were the Christians. That was basically all the anti-Semitism. And it wasn't so much the Muslims. All they wanted was that you should recognize that they are the supreme. It's the Christians.
They just wanted you to convert to Islam.
Well, no.
During Rambam, they wanted you to convert to Islam or leave the country, one or the other.
What they wanted to do was to submit that they are the superior race. Muslims are not into conversion. Christians are, and I want to explain why. But anyway, so therefore it's astounding. Imagine 400, they're 15, so if it should have been 516 million, right? And so that means there are 545 million Jews missing. Could you imagine how many shuls there would have been? Right? Unbelievable. I mean, the yeshivas and the shuls, where are they? That's the slaughter, 2,000 years. And that's lishbrit, the science stuff.
Is there a purpose to that, like to keep the Jewish population so small, or is that just because of the evil?
No. Keep the Jews coming back to do the tikkun. So God has to constantly erase them so they can have a new start. And so many Jews, whatever, sinning. The truth is we don't really know why. But whatever it is, we recognize that the Christians have butchered at least over 1.5 billion Jews. So we wonder, well, when are they going to be judged? That's it. God is going to say, or the Mashiach are going to say, this is the accusation. You butchered, slaughtered, tortured, right? 540 million people that should have been born or whatever over the centuries and so on. And they're all gone. There's nobody left,
Yeah, even the Christians know your blood cry out. What happened in China?
Yeah.
So we know it's not blood, it's blood.
I'll tell you something interesting as an aside. In the year 2000, the millennium, right, the Christians were worried. Why? Because if you look at the New Testament, which is obviously look at it. Well, if you look at the New Testament, right, you'll see that Yeshua said, verily, you will see the kingdom of God. He said to them, that kingdom of heaven is going to come in your time. And they know that. The problem is, so there's supposed to be a second coming, whatever. He never came back. So they don't understand. It's 2,000 years since he lived, right? Where's this guy? Where is he? Right? And it was coming up to the millennium, right? And they were nervous. Because for 2,000 years, he still hasn't come. And of course, he hasn't come now, right? So they don't understand, where is he? Why didn't he come? Where's the second coming? Right? So therefore, if you remember, the Pope, I think it was in the year 1999, I forgot which Pope it was, but Pope went to the Kessin. You remember that?
Yes.
And they put a crystal in the Kessin.
Mm-hmm.
Why? I forgot which Pope was. Which Pope was it? I forgot which one. What?
Yeah, Benedict.
Oh, Benedict. Yeah, Benedictus. The good part. But anyway, I want to. So what happened? Why did he go? That Pope doesn't go to the Kessin. That's an admission. You know why? I'll tell you why. Because he had the same concern. Where is this guy? Where's the second coming? Right? So he figured I know why he doesn't come. Because we overdid it. We killed too many Jews. And they know that the Jews are the children of God. I mean, it says that in the Torah. How many times you are my nation? How many times? 1,000 times? Yeah. Okay, that wouldn't bother him so much. But so they felt that they overdid it.
But they went back to how we love Israel.
Wait. So that's why he went to the Kessin. That if I overdid it, and that's why you're not coming, Chotofsi or BC or Shasi, right? No, yeah, he needs a kapora.
They support more Israel than the Jews here.
So you know what I said? I gave a whole shiur. Then, it was 22 years ago, right? I gave a whole shiur and I explained why he's coming all of a sudden to the Kessin at the millennium. Because he's doing his Chotofsi, Avisi, Kushati, right? It's Yom Kippur for him, right? And he's hedging his bet. If you didn't come, but if you didn't come because we overdid it, forgive us for killing 540 million people. Yeah,
which is their brothers.
So I added to that. I said, wait a minute, why hasn't he come? That's not why he didn't come. Why hasn't he come? They're wondering, where is he? Why didn't he come? And I answered the question. You know why he hasn't come? Because he's dead. Rather obvious. Except they don't recognize that he's dead. Because he's part of the kingdom of heaven and all that, right? But he's dead. The whole thing is a fabrication. He's not going to come back. What does he think? He's the boss? And so on, you see? But anyway, it's interesting that even they are nervous. Because it doesn't make sense based on their religion why he hasn't come. See?
But it's
anyway.
They're protecting us now. Protecting Israel, which is the step of Messiah.
Yeah, well, they really...
Now is making that way go crazy.
But part of the problem, because it says in the New Testament, I will not come back until all of you recognize me. So they have to get the Jews to recognize.
And also, he said, I will not come back. They're believing that. They're called the Christian fundamentalists.
Yeah.
They said, and they realize now that Hashem is saying, I will not come back until you recognize that Israel has to go back and live in Israel. The Jews have to be in Israel.
That's part of what they think.
So now they're opening the door, go in Israel, we're collecting money for Israel, thinking Jesus will come and show us all that he was the real Messiah.
Right.
That's another reason.
Go ahead.
When you're talking about Confederate at all, when you're saying that now is the time that it's being taken away from America, is that
right. And it's unheard of.
But it's a question of, but the problem is that, okay, so Israel, where the Jews belong, whatever, but the notion and the belief in Israel is not exactly pro-God either, and like the institutions and like when you were talking about the pride parades and everything, it's like, so is it just because now is the time for it to be coming back to Jews, even though Jews aren't doing the mitzvah and the... No, but they're not everyone. So then that Jews, so that yeah, but
I want to explain.
There's always a time where there's good Jews and non-practicing Jews or whatever. Why is now a time?
Okay,
or just part of the course?
I want to explain that. I'll repeat it. Whatever, you know. Let's say New York City needs engineers, right? So obviously they want to make sure you know your stuff. So they give an exam, right? So they announce we need engineers, city engineers, give an exam, and people please come and take it, whatever, right? People come and take it, and the average mark, let's assume, is a 70. It's not good. You don't want guys with an average mark of 70 as an engineer for a city, right? It's a lot of building collapses, right? So what do? You can't hire these guys. So what you do is some guy comes up with a bright idea. You know what we're going to do? We will make the passing grade 50. Right? It's usually more usually is what happens, right? And then you make it 50, and more people get in, right? But still not enough, because the average mark is 40. So what you do is you lower it to 40. In other words, what you do is you keep lowering the bar, but it's not working. Well, the Baal Shem looks at Klal Yisrael, right? There was a study done in London, and that study estimated there are 15.1 million Jews. How many Haredim are there? Doesn't mean Haredi party, it means Torah observant, 2.1 million. That's it. I don't know how they arrived at that. That means 13 million Jews are gone. So how's the Baal Shem going to bring them in? And we know that they have to retain something. In Egypt, they didn't change their name, their dress, their language. So that's what made them Jews. And the schus, the reason why they got out, wasn't because of those. That's what gave them the identity of Jew. What got them out was no Lashon Hara. So I'm not going to go into it. The Chazal tells us. But they didn't speak Lashon Hara, so that's why they got out of Egypt, which is an astounding concept. And anyway, so the problem is, but even in Egypt, you needed a minimum. You're not identifying, well, if you got the goyim, right? So the question is, what's the minimum in this generation where basically everybody's gone, almost everybody's gone, right? And the answer is, well, how do you feel about being Jewish? Forget about the mitzvahs. God is lowering the bar.
Right. So as long as you just identify as being
right.
That's it.
Yes. Now, of course, you're not going to get the same William Abba as the other one who does the mitzvahs, but you have identified as a Jew.
That's just identifying.
Yes. Oh, you see, he's proud of being a Jew. Oh, that's enough. Or he says, yeah, the state of Israel, the Jewish country, I'm proud of. That's enough. So God has substantially lowered the bar.
Just because it's time for
because if you don't know the bar, they're not getting in. 80% are not getting in. What do you do with these guys? Same thing with the engineer. If you don't know the bar, there's no engineers. And even if they're not good, okay, but at least you have some. But not everybody's bad. I mean, you know, or else you have nobody. I mean, you can't have nobody, right? So whatever, till you take measures to correct the solution. So God is lowering the bar. Very important concept. You see, just like he did in Egypt, lowered the bar, right? You mean all you need to do is not change your name, your language, and your dress. That's it. Not much. Although, you know, today it would be, but, you know, yeah. So that enables you to identify as a Jew, and as a result of that,
in the way we're talking about zero, because when you're saying in the religious hierarchy, they found 2 million out of the 15 million around the world. How many went out really out of Egypt? Okay, 600,000 men, 3 million. It's close to the same number where we started at 0 points with Moshe Rabbeinu leading Mitzrayim. Can you think about it? What did we learn now in the last 4,000 years? How did we advance?
Wait, not really. There's a difference. Because in Egypt you had many good goyim. You had the Shvatim. You had a lot of righteous people. Right? The whole Shevet Levi. Yeah, a lot of people. So you had a lot of tzaddikim. Right? So if they were not going to be observant, bad news. Because you have so many ways of elevating yourself. Today, did you ever look around? Who's left? So you really can't blame, in many ways, a great deal of the Jews today are honest. honest means they're compelled. They're, what's the word? Accident. Innocent, or it's they're compelled to be. There's no way to look at it anymore.
Do you have Nevi'im today?
Nothing. Well, yeah, and not only that, the part of the problem is also we live in an incredibly open society, which is unbelievably distracting. You don't have any idea what it is. We all know we live in America. In America, you have access to every tumor imaginable. Anything, you want television, you want internet, you want pornographic material on the internet, which is, by the way, what 50% of people are on the internet altogether with pornography. You don't realize that. And you have that, you have music. How much time music takes up in your life? Guys have albums of 50 million records. Actually, I said, are you crazy? What are you going to listen to 50 million records? What do you know? And not only that, you have Netflix. You have any idea what goes on today? You can go in a room and sit there for the rest of your life, never walk out, and have somebody else order in, right?
Every show 300 episodes. What do you see?
Right. Come on. This isn't a distraction. This is an immersion. Right? You're immersed in tumor. I mean, you're immersed in, even if you don't want to call it tumor, yeah, it's an addiction. It's an unbelievable, alternative lifestyle. You see?
Virtual reality.
Literally, yeah. Today, it costs you a couple of grand. You get yourself a 9-foot screen, right? Get yourself a room, the entertainment room, 9-foot screen, and you're glued all day to every TV show, movie, musical, whatever, that it was ever made. It would take you 100 lifetimes to go through them, right? Then you wonder, is there any room left for some Torah?
No, I'm saying not even, just in general. What happened to the days where grandma sat and showed you how to do the kibbutz, how to do the rolls, how to do the bread, how to do this?
Well, now she will.
On Netflix, after she sat down and
because now all she has to do is point to your ways and say, here's how you get to the store. So therefore, as a result of that, we live in an unbelievable environment. I mean, we can't believe, the environment we live in is so conducive to absolutely doing nothing, and I feel sorry for people.
So how do you do something out of it?
How do you do that?
COVID. Well, anything that also dives you into it. It's you either way,
Yeah. There are ways, but for that, you have to have a change of consciousness. The problem today is, look, if you do not learn Hashkafa, in many ways, you finish. Because we are attacked by so many foreign ideologies. Everybody out there saying, I got the way, look at me, right? You name it, and everybody's got a shita about the way of life. So who do you believe? What do you believe? So the only way to guard yourself against that is Hashkafa. You need to learn. What do you think the purpose of this year is? I don't give sermons. No, I'm not a sermon guy. Right? Why am I not a sermon guy? I'll tell you why. I'll tell you a very important secret that most people realize. Why is it that why is it you hear a shiur, a mussar shiur, or a be good shiur, or whatever, right? And one day it goes in, and the next day it's gone. You ever notice that? Why is that? And I will tell you. And here's the mistake people make. If you want to change a person, do not inspire him. You don't get changed. You don't change because all of a sudden you got inspired by a story. Today it's all stories. You ever notice? If you don't have a story to say, you don't have nothing to say, basically, right? You need a story to depend on deliver the message. I'm not a story guy, you notice? No stories. Yet everybody's fascinated. Why? Because I present ideas, incredible different ideas that are startling. You see? That's much harder work on my part. You don't realize how much work that is. I got to produce, a shiur that's going to hold you and grip you for 2 hours. You don't realize what kind of a challenge that is. But everybody else, check out a storybook, right? Of this godel, that godel. Now, it's nice in a certain sense, but it's all stories. And it goes in one year, the next day it's gone. Why? Because to change behavior, a story won't do it. An inspiration won't do it. So then what will? The only way I can change you is to alter your beliefs, not inspire. That's the secret. Only if I change your belief system will you change. Because we are always consistent with what we believe and how we behave. That's the secret to change human behavior. The greatest way to change or to change your belief is to give a shiur of reality and connect all the dots so convincingly that you say, wait a minute, this must be true. You don't realize how powerful that is. When you hear interconnected ideas that are what's called internally consistent, your belief changes. This has to be true. And the human mind always searches for its belief. Well, what do I really believe reality is? And then you begin to change in that direction. It's a very interesting phenomenon. I discovered that many, many years ago. And that's why my shiur is not about stories. It's not about inspiration because of what somebody else did. It's about truth, reality. And the way I convince you is by connecting so many dots that you say to yourself, this has to be true. And that's all I have to do. Once I've connected the dots for you, and unconsciously you grab it, you see, you will begin to change. It's a very interesting phenomenon. It is the secret, really, of the power of my shiurim. That's why I meet people, and they remember what I said 15 years ago. Wow, who remembers anything 15 years ago? Good thing you remember who your spouse is 15 years ago, right? And so on. And the answer is because I've altered their framework of reality. That's what a belief is. A belief is where I have a view of what reality is. But what happens if I alter that? Guess what? It stays that way until you die. And you don't realize how powerful a belief is. You see? That's why I don't give much schmoozing, right? I don't talk stories. I remember I once talked about a story of George Washington, which was very powerful. I remember that, But other than that, I hardly ever. Yet, for some reason, I'm able to grip people at a certain level because I changed their belief system. You see. That's why. And I'll tell you another idea, which is very interesting. You ever notice you walk into a Jewish bookstore, right? And it's all stories. It's like the whole front table is storybooks, Mother Goose, or whatever, the Grimm's fairy tales. I'm joking around, but, why are we into stories? And what I'm saying is the secret of why stories don't work. You know why? Because in the old days, the mitzvah, what God wanted, was asay tov, do good. And asay tov is what? You have to learn Torah, you have to grow in Torah, grow in ideas, etc. But today, the mitzvah, forget about asay tov. What tov? Because of all the distractions and the tumah and so on, right? Today, it's sumera. That's the job. Whatever you do, don't fall. Don't sink. Forget about swimming. Stay put. Don't drown. That's the mitzvah today. So think about that. In order to stay Telomeres, right, you don't have to learn new ideas. You just have to be inspired, and you'll stay afloat. So therefore, what the Basham did is he made sure that this generation, which needs Telomeres, right, what they need, forget about ideas and depth and Hashkafa and all this. No. What they need is a couple of good stories. You know, that's why. So
the end of it, of that line. It's a good one.
Anyway, so that's why what the Basham did is he put into the minds of man or Jews, whatever, I need a good story. Because the main thrust of the Avodah today is don't fall into the evil, and therefore you need to be inspired. You see? Interesting concept, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Now you know why. Yeah, you need both, but today there's an unbelievable preponderance of stories. I mean, I walk into a bookstore and I say, wow, you know, it's like it's all stories. They're nice stories. You ever see, as soon as a girl dies, it takes about 2 months, and then a book comes out.
Yes.
Of course, about the lives and times of, etc. Right? Why? You know? It's more than that, because you need inspiration, not to sink. Forget about Hashkafa. That will advance you, you see. But that's not really the Avodah, except for a few people. I say to it, it's really Telomeres. And therefore the proper, or the way to connect to that, is by stories. And God has arranged that everybody's into stories. I sometimes look at these guys and say, I can't believe, how do you guys come up with this stuff? Story after story. It's like it's endless. What do you guys, I really have to admire the guys. I've never seen such an unbelievable proliferation of stories. Like, how do you guys find this stuff? You know, it was 50 years ago they didn't know this stuff. Yeah, this kind of stories. Yeah, it's always some Gedolim stories, some Hasidic Rebbe stories, whatever. But today, every nuance is recorded and so on. That's it. Because we need stories in this generation. My kind of guy, or my kind of philosophy, is not stories. It's to change your life. And I do that with Hashkafa. So the answer to your question, what do? You need to get back to Hashkafa. You need to teach what is reality, who is God, what does He really want, why Ramchal.
Okay.
That's why I'm into Ramchal 55 years. So I've made that a lifetime, a pursuit, and so on. But what's interesting, I find, is guess what? If you hear only a couple of stories, you get tired, don't you? Come on, how many stories can a guy hear, right? But I find people into Ramchal, they don't get tired. They're fascinated. Yeah, they may get tired listening, but not because they get tired or bored of the same idea, you see? Because Hashkafa is fascinating if it is taught in the right way. Or you could teach Hashkafa as a sermon.
Ramchal is more the common sense. More. Is that what you're saying? That it's not the inspiration.
No, Ramchal is a rabbi.
I'm saying.
Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto is
right.
the architectural plans of creation.
And he speaks in common sense where people can...
Yeah, of course.
So I think it's fascinating that you just, the way you laid out that we're not big team. And when you were describing it, how it's kind of like, how people can be whatever they want to be, they want to be with gender or whatever, what pronoun. Thinking how that plays out. You're telling us now, and a holiday that's coming up soon in America is, like maybe the 50th gate has a holiday.
Halloween.
Yeah, because they'll take your kids, they take their kids to a store, and they're like, what do you want? Do you want to be a queen? Or be a, zebra? Like, what do you want to be? And then you decided
skeletons.
They can meow.
Or a guy without a head.
Halloween is about one of the most emptiest days you've ever seen. But they have Rachmanis and Goyim, because they have nothing. Well, what holiday do they have? Even their Christmas is all about commercial. There's nothing there. So they're desperate for anything. So therefore, Halloween. You know what Halloween really was? It's like, I think All Saints Day. It's really all about demons. It's all about demons and witches and goblins and, all the other stuff.
Dead people or skeletons.
Rabbi, I have a question. So
sure.
Going back to Ramchal, in Mishkan Elyon, when he talks about the Beit HaMikdash,
yes.
When you said that the Beit HaMikdash is going to come down physically, is that through the Sefirot? How does it become physical if it's the spiritual entity?
Well, it's like anything else, the Zikuch. But it's like anything else. The Rosh Hashanah, if you want, what he does is he can diminish the output of the spheres, and it becomes physical.
Uh-huh.
If he increases the output, then it becomes spiritual. And that's ultimately how he changes Olam Hazeh to Olam Haba, by increasing the output of the spheres. But you can also reverse the process, right?
Right.
The second way of making it physical is by adding Zoyama, sprinkling Zoyama on it.
The Beit HaMikdash?
How you become physical.
How is it going to become physical if it's a spiritual entity?
Yeah, so either you... Zohama. The satanic influence and so on, but that's how you can do it.
So he just dims it down, so to speak, the energies of those Sefirot, and that's how they become physicalized.
Right, and that's the first real connection, because the real journey is you go from physical to more spiritual, until you get to Olam Haba. So where does it start? Where does the beginning of the transformation to spirituality begin? The Beit HaMikdash.
Is that how a child is born? Through dimming down Sefirot? Making him physical?
Actually, what you're saying is really very interesting. I think I said it here. What's the key concept of development in a human? Remember that? Yeah.
What's maturity?
What is maturity? Am I there?
Mm-hmm.
The key concept of development is consciousness, cognition. There's a difference between a one-day-old infant and a 90-year-old man. Assuming you're still there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's consciousness. Moifen. Remember I used the word moifen, brains? Kabbalistically, that's where you grow. You start from infant, become...
I'm talking about from the stomach to actual physical coming out. Is that dimming down the Sefirot in order to produce the child?
No, you don't. No, not that, because everything that the baby is, ultimately, you manufacture. All from you, right?
Right.
The spirituality is added to that. But it's not, nothing spiritual becomes physical, right? The body makes the embryo, which is beyond belief. It makes the embryo. It takes all the parts, right? It's astounding what it does. I mean, it starts off with what? 2 cells and BMO, and then the body grows by assimilating protoplasm. It's a physical function, but the amazing thing is that it's able to make an infant from nothing. Nobody on the two. I believe there are many great miracles, but the 2 greatest miracles I've ever seen, is how in the world 2 cells will become a human body. It is something beyond what you ever imagine, because we're talking about 100 trillion cells functioning, and the second greatest miracle is not just the development of the embryo. That's part of the embryo. The second incredible miracle is how in the world does a 2-year-old speak? How in the world does he figure? I can't even figure out what you're talking about here, and I know English, right? And he figures out English, and then he uses sentences. How in the world does he do it? He doesn't even know what he's doing. He doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, does the kid say, wait a minute, what did she mean by this word? He doesn't say that. Somehow I got it. And then after a while, he gets it, and he learns actually what's called syntax. He can put it in the right sequence into a sentence. He learns the concept of words, he learns the concept of sound represents things. It's unheard of. That's what language is, where you recognize that a sound represents something, a meaning. So he figures out a word, then he figures out a phrase, then he figures out a sentence, you know? And then before you know it, the kid doesn't shut up. Right? How? Nobody's sitting there and saying, okay, this is a bottle or can. Nobody says that to him. He walks over. I remember, I have a granddaughter. She was 3 years old. She didn't speak much, so we had her over. So one day she comes over to me, and she belts out a whole sentence. I say, excuse me, what? How did you get the sentence? What method of madness overcame you to be able to say a whole sentence? Unbelievable. You don't realize the nest. Yeah, of course it's the brain doing what. Come on, who cares? Evolution can't do this. In 1 billion years, they couldn't make a kid that knows language. Yet every kid, and we know why, because if you don't talk, you're not human. That's the end of interconnectedness. But the Rabbi gave the ability of a 2-year-old kid, a 1-year-old kid starts to babble. Like 2 years old, they have phrases. How? Then there's no instruction here. You can't massy the miracle. If you think about that, what a miracle that is.
So, Rabbi, going back to the Beit HaMikdash, you said that that's going to come down first, and then Mashiach ben Yosef is going to happen second.
No, because Mashiach ben Yosef probably will come first.
He has the Pekidah first.
Yes.
And then the Beit HaMikdash comes down.
Right.
And then his announcement comes out, meaning he'll be more known, well known.
Yes. He's going to grow. Yeah.
So he needs the Beit HaMikdash down in order for him to.
Or else he doesn't have the Shefa.
Or else he doesn't have Shefa.
Right.
So what in the time period between the Pekidah and the Beit HaMikdash coming down, what's going to happen? What's
going to happen is his growth.
And in the world?
Evil.
Evil rises.
Zoyama rises.
Wow.
Mar-a-Lago.
So you think that he could have had the Pekidah already if we're seeing so much evil in the world now?
Just if I had to intuit where he's at, I would say he's probably knows who he is without being told, although he has to be told. Doesn't work
by God.
Yeah. Look, there's a lot of guys walking around think they're Messiah.
That's what they do.
No. So he already has a very good guess about what's happening, which means that he's enough out of the klipa, or his consciousness has been released, where he's aware. But it hasn't happened yet. But because the Zoyama is growing by leaps and bounds, like I said, my feeling is we are actually in the Zoyama, not the 49th level. And the only thing that can counteract that is the 50th level of Yusha, which is the Messianic Light, or the beginnings of it. That's where we're at. We're like at the tipping point.
So when you were talking about the telomere,
that's my
how the telomere of a chromosome is the Zohama.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the physical manifestation of the Zohama.
So when you get sick, does that mean that your body has more Zohama in it?
No. We all have Zohama at a certain level, and that's all.
So sickness doesn't tell you anything.
No.
It's not a parameter, so to speak, of your Zohama.
No. Zohama is fixed.
It's fixed. Even though Zohama does cause illnesses and age and all that thing.
Well, Chet does, because it blocks off Shefa of spheres, and that's what makes you sick.
Through sin.
Right. It's a sin that makes you sick.
Got it. So when the telomere does break off from the chromosome, how long does it take to unravel? Is that the 30 days when the soul gives you that? Sometimes they say 30 days before the soul leaves the earth, it gives signs. You know what I'm talking about? Before
but
somebody,
no, but it's not. That's not. I mean,
does it have a connection? That's my question.
it's not the telomeres that the neshama feels its exit. You feel you're about to exit. Somehow the soul knows when it's about to exit.
But it doesn't say it.
No, it's an intuition, feeling, and that's why people say, I'm about to go. They somehow know, without knowing why they know. They know. That's why a lot of people can predict their death. And that's the neshama. Soul knows when it's going to exit.
So now let's say Elul is we're in Elul. We're in the month, God willing, of repentance and coming closer to Hashem.
Right.
So let's end off on what should we do? How should we go about this month to make it the most?
Well, I once said, several times already, the most important thing you can do is I said Moshe Rabbeinu, when there was a het or ego in the golden calf. Notice Moshe Rabbeinu didn't say, well, who are those people that are sorry they did the ego? Didn't say that. He says, Mil Hashem, who is to God, Eli, come to me. His name, what's up to with the het or ego? Never mentioned the fact that they did a het, right? What was he concerned with? Of course, it's concerning that they did the sin, which was really terrible and so on. But his concern is, where are you standing now? Where are you now? Are you still part of the team? You slipped. Fine. But are you still part of the team? Or did you decide, well, maybe I'll switch over to the other side? That was his concern. And I once mentioned Rabbi Rom ben David, what's called the Baplukta of the Rambam, the one who argues with the Rambam, that one, because there are three rivals. Anyway, so he said, what God is most concerned about is not an individual sin. And that will be repaired, and that's the end of it, God is really concerned about where are you in the effort to bring him back. Mil Hashem, who is to God? Are you part of the club? You still part of the part of the team? Yes or no? That's what he's concerned about. So as long as you can say, I slip, I slide, but I'm still part of, what do they call it, Team A or something like that? Whatever, yeah. I'm still part of the team, and I'm going to try whatever I can. Don't leave me out. I'm still with you, right? I still got my membership signed. I'm part of I still registered.
I went to the wrong party, but I'm really still over here.
Yeah, exactly. And so, that's what he wants. Why? Because as long as you see yourself as part of his team, you will make it. The danger is when you think already, what do I need it for? Too hard. The world looks so attractive. There's so much stuff going on, and I'm missing it all out. That's the danger part.
If you know anything about Har Sinai, where really it is, what country, and where Midian, and all what happened to Ego, because word is that it was in Saudi Arabia, all this stuff. Is that true, or it's a word that's out? And they have proof, all right? Showing the Har Sinai and everything.
No.
Oh, it's not true? Okay.
No. I'm saying we won't know where Har Sinai is until the end. Why? Because what happened on Har Sinai never happened before. God revealed his presence in terms of the Messianic light. Therefore, the whole mountain has to be hidden.
And what?
Hidden.
Yeah.
Because that mountain still retains
the
right. That never left. Just like the Beit HaMikdash. It's still holy. That's why you can't go there, and so on. Because once God enters that place with that type of presence, it's all unbelievable. The mountain thundered and all that, and everybody died because God spoke to every Jew. It's beyond belief. what they experience, which we do not know, that is permanent. So if you find a mountain and you're walking up that mountain,
you could die.
I don't know if you'll die, but you're going to get shaken up. You won't know what hit you. Because you're going to say to yourself, why am I experiencing this? So what is happening to me? You see? Because that Kedusha, it's called the Rishimoy. Rishimoy means the Roshem, the impression. When God enters a place and he leaves, he doesn't leave. He leaves over a Roshem, an impression. You see? So the original power is gone. But there's a Rishimoy. And that Rishimoy can knock you out. So imagine if you find a mountain and you're walking up that mountain and you're feeling this. What is going on here, Then you have found Har Sinai. But God doesn't want people to find Har Sinai. You know what I'm saying? Of course, the Arabs go crazy, man. This is a Hamusa, a mountain of Moses. They go out of their mind, That's the
Jebel Musa, they call it.
Jebel Musa, yeah.
Meaning the mountains of Musa.
Yeah. So therefore, I don't believe we'll ever know until the end when it's okay, and then we will, obviously venerate that mountain.
So when 81 were enrolled, what was something?
So that's what I mean. When you get up in the morning, to say to yourself, I'm part of the team. That's all you need is a designation. You don't need more, but you need a reminder. You need what's called what's the word for it? Rededication. I'm still part of the team. Whatever I can do to advance the team, I will try to do. That's it. It's the most important thing you can do. Because once you abandon the team, you've been abandoned. Oh yeah. That's all. People do not realize what the essential. Yeah.
But those that didn't go with Moshe, the earth opened up and ate them up. When he said, "Are you coming with me, or are you not? Who are you with?" Mm-hmm. And those who went towards Moshe got saved. They didn't know those that didn't go. The people who didn't go, they stood in their ground. Very good, Korach and the rest of them.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
The earth opened up and swallowed them.
Right.
And they weren't 2-3 people. They were a good couple of thousand.
Yeah. Listen. No.
Then they really, they believed in Hashem and they served Moshe.
Yeah. Well, you know why God was very serious with them?
What?
Why did that's a very strange way of dying. The earth actually follows you and swallows you up. Why?
Because you came from earth, you're going to go back to it.
No.
Yeah, what is it?
Because what Korach attempted to do, he didn't deny Moshe got the Torah from God, but he said not all of it is from God. Some of it's from your own ideas. So what he did, therefore, right, is he destroyed the authenticity of the Torah. Because, maybe this is from Moshe, not from God. What do I have to observe it for? So he destroyed the authority of the Torah because it has to be all from God. Not any, like Moshe Rabbeinu says, I have to prove to you that not really be from my heart. So what he did is he attacked the very authority of the Torah, right? So that's the ground that Judaism stands on, is that the Torah was written by God. So therefore God said, you want to attack the ground basis of my religion, the ground will eat you up. Mida keneged mida. The ground will destroy you. Because you're attacking the ground that's called the basis, foundation of the whole Judaism, that the whole thing was given by God. Because if not, God gave this, but he didn't really give this. It's Moshe Rabbeinu. He dreamt it up on his own, this kind of stuff. Aaron, God didn't make Aaron. Moshe Rabbeinu decided to give what do you call that when you give a... Nepotism, yeah. That's the end of the Torah. You know, God said, "Do you want to do that?" You know, and I'll end it for you and finish. You know.